chat at kiwifm.co.nz. Kiwi FM.
102.2 Auckland.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Kiwi.
Joining us now in Germany, Deutschland. It's Bond does Deutschland. Kirsty Bond, hello and good evening to you.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm very well, Bond. Today we're going to be talking about Denglish. Tell me, what is Denglish?
That's right. Denglish is quite a common term over here in Germany, actually. It's to describe the infiltration of dirty old English into the Deutsch language. So this happens quite regularly here. You'll get English words that are just outright taken from English and just incorporated into Deutsch sentences. And recently they've actually started adding them to the Deutsch dictionary. For example, baby blues, after show party, no-go area, the it girl, things like this that don't actually sound very German at all.
What is baby blues after show party mean? What's that?
That's not one word, though. Those are two separate things. So the baby blues, when someone gets depressed after having a baby due to hormonal changes, etc. Or an after-show party. It's quite self-explanatory, isn't it? Yeah,
I suppose so. But how do these things start creeping into German language?
Well, I guess a lot of it is from globalization, and just people are really quite educated over here, and they spend a lot of time studying English at school. So the general level of people's English is quite high. And so these just start creeping into everyday use, and then they'll also just take English words and then kind of what I would call Deutschify them. So they'll, for example, a German word, when you want to put it into past tense, you put ge on the beginning of it. So then you'll have words like, well, downloaded becomes ge-downloaded. So you say, I have ge-downloaded, or I have ge-snowboarded, or I have ge-googled. It's quite amusing.
Have you found yourself using some of these terms?
Yeah, well, obviously they're easier for me to remember than real German words, so I can try and I can easily pull out a I have Googled. But obviously this is a bit of a problem when it comes to wanting to protect a language and make sure that it lives on in its pure form. So there are people who aren't exactly too excited about this Denglish concept, and the foreign minister actually last week has launched a campaign to try and protect the language and promote it also for people outside of Germany to learn it as a foreign language, and also just to make sure that people treasure it, I guess. As I was saying before, advertisers often use English words, and they try and, I guess they think that it makes them sound cool or international, and so they'll use English slogans to describe their products. And there's started to become a trend away from this recently, because they did some research and found out that this catchy advertising English language, it's not self-explanatory to everybody. Sometimes you need like a native grasp of a language to be able to understand those catchy slogans. So a good example of this is a store called Douglas over here. It's a perfume chain. They had a slogan that was come in and find out. So come in and explore and find out. But they did some research and discovered that a lot of Germans were interpreting this to mean come in and then find your way back out, which isn't exactly the message that they were wanting to get across.
Yeah. So the message almost lost in the translation there somewhat. So is there some kind of fight at a government level now against perhaps advertisers using this sort of language?
It's not something that they could really enforce, but it's definitely something that they're trying to encourage by this campaign. And there's also people campaigning to really get it legislated that German is the official language in Germany, because unlike a lot of countries, that isn't the case here. There's no legislation saying that German is for Germany.
Right, yeah. That's really interesting, because the Māori language is enshrined here in New Zealand.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, the same foreign minister who is leading the charge on the campaign, he actually caused a bit of a stir recently because he had held a press conference, and a BBC reporter politely asked him, "Would you mind if I ask a question in English, and would you mind answering in English?" And he just said, "Well, as it's customary to speak English in Great Britain, so it's the norm to speak German in Germany," and just outright refused his question. So so he's really trying to set an example, and there's a German language organisation who's handing out awards for people who are doing their duty in protecting the language, and obviously he was one of the nominees.
It really does sound to me, though, it's the classic battle between the new and old generations as well, and I'd imagine it's going to be really hard to stop change, because the younger generation really probably does want to start adopting new things.
Yeah, exactly. And the young people here, anyone who's educated or gone right through school, they speak really good English. It's so easy to have a conversation. They speak so fluently. But that's not necessarily the case for the older generations. And so you can imagine like a 70-year-old person when they turn up at a train station and they see all this signage around them that's got English words here and there, and younger people are starting to incorporate it into their language. And it would be quite an alienating feeling, being in your own country and not necessarily understanding everything that's around you when it should be written in your own language.
Well, Kirsty Bond in Deutschland, good night to you.
Good night indeed, and good morning to you. And do you know what? A German rooster would actually say kikeriki in the morning, not cock-a-doodle-doo.
Oh, the kikeriki! It sounds Māori. It sounds like a colour.
Indeed it does.
Thanks very much, Kirsty.
See ya.
Got a track now from The Clean. This here is called Factory Man. Kiwi.
A factory man.